Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Commodity TV in the new edition of our online interview series. We want to get now an update from Ken Konkin, the CEO of Tudor Gold. Ken, good morning to Canada. How are you?
Thank you very much. Glad to be here. Always great to see you, my friend.
Yeah, thank you very much. Great to see you, Ken. Fantastic shape. You look great. And honestly, your drill holes look great. You just released, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, again, fantastic drill results. So let's start to talk about that. What does it mean for the company?
Well, this is the thing that I've been sort of kind of bringing light to. There's a lot of things that are in the resource, and one of the things that we wanted to really highlight was what did not make the resource. And one of the things that didn't make the drill indicated resource of the new 23.4 million ounce gold equivalent was the bottom of hole 113W1. That had 732 meters of 1.60 gold equivalent with over 0.5% copper. So it was 0.91 gold, and that was a lone wolf. So it didn't have any friends to support it. So it represented a large block. So what we did is we used the success of that and sprung out from that and created the entire 2023 program to basically do the conversion of those 7.4 million ounces out there that were basically an inferred in gold equivalent, to bring that into the drill indicated. So that was the goal, and to push the limits of the deposit in the richest areas that we could push out. So the goal here is to specifically to basically grow the resource, but not at the cost of reducing the grade. In fact, the opposite. We would rather take razor blades and trim off the ounces, or rather the ounces and tons, be honest with you, the lower grade ones, just to get the most optimum ones, the ones that are well over 1 gram. So we're talking right now, we're at 1.13. If you were to look at the resource and to say if you're a madman and applied a 1 gram cutoff on everything, including the pit, you'd still have 15.2 million ounces, but this time the grade would be 1.48. And with another 3.8 million ounces out there. That's significant, because if you had those inferred numbers back on to your drill indicated, you're back up to my old friend 19.4 million ounces, where we started with 0.74. But this time it's going to be double. It's 1.48. So all the holes we're seeing come in are going to support that grade jump from 1.13 to that 1.48. It doesn't necessarily need to be a 1 gram cutoff. We're just playing with the numbers to optimize this thing. So this is the goal. So we've got a bit of drilling left to release. So we've done well. The last drill program, just to summarize, did in fact support that hypothesis that we are still going through the center of mass of the best grades. And that has not let up. But also the good news, we did locate one chunk of perfect storm on the outlier, the furthest most southern, I guess westernmost hole that came in with a good hit. It was 102.15 meters of 1.28 gold equivalent. Gold, silver, no copper yet, but typically copper occurs deeper in the system in all of these systems, including everything they've got at KSM. So really exciting stuff coming up.
Yeah, super. And I also saw in your press release that you have spaced it over a distance of 1,500 meters again. So that means still mineralization, still moving on. This is not stopping, right?
Well, that's the hard part. Is what you're doing is essentially playing battleship with a deposit. You're trying to find this widest space. We're going left and right and seeing what shakes out. And the final holes are going to be coming up. The next last bit of holes did indicate a vectoring that shows us that we need to go more into the mountain in one sense. And then that's on the eastern end. On the western end, we need to sort of concentrate on the periphery of the mega anomaly. So it's twofold. It's going to be a very interesting project next season for Perfect Storm when we chase it. But I think the real news here is, besides hitting yet another target that may have the mass as large as, say, Goldstorm, the reality is Goldstorm is still growing. It's not letting up. And I don't know if to be honest with you, I don't know if we'll ever get to the end of it, because there's no Well, why I say that is it's a similar problem. It's a good problem to have. It happened.
Yeah,
It
it's
happened
a
to us
Hollywood
at
problem, honestly.
it
Yeah.
happened to us at Pratium when we were drilling off.
Yeah.
At that point, it was so difficult to keep holes online at tight spacing in a kind of a epithermal
Hmm.
or structure complex, vein complex, that you had to keep these holes 25 meters apart. Well, it was impossible after 800 meters. It was very difficult. They kept
Hmm.
crossing and not hitting where you want to hit. So we had a devil of a time trying to wedge holes down, which is an impossibility almost. So what we normally do is aim low and wedge up. So we had to abort a lot of holes because they were just going off the target. They were off into the hanging wall, and we just couldn't control it. So finally, we set up two super pads at the end of the year to design to basically come in on a favorable angle and to come in from the northeast back towards the CS600, back
Hmm.
towards 300 horizon, and also a better angle on DS5. So all these major domains have now a better approach to a more sensible, I guess, yes, no to how far this thing goes. But the
Hmm.
reality is the bottom 300 meters of the deposit, we believe, is still running with the best grades. We probably may not be able to reach. It'll take some real hard thinking here how we go about it. And the one thing I do not like about it, it just takes up so much time for a drill. You're sacrificing a drill for such a long time,
Hmm.
a month and a half sometimes, just to get that one hole in there. And if you can exercise your domains out in the X and Y coordinate versus the Z, the depth coordinate, you're much better served for that. So that was the purpose of the super pads for sure.
Hmm. Okay, super. So that raises then the question with me, before we come to another thing I discovered in your news. When will you, how can I say that, not stop it, but when will you say, okay, listen, now we have found this and this, and it looks all fantastic? Because I think you need to do the next step, right? I mean, you cannot
Correct.
drill forever. That's impossible. Nobody has the money. And it looks to me like this deposit is so outstanding that you could drill another 5 years and you are not at the end, right? Maybe then you are
Well,
at 45
you make
million
an excellent
ounces.
point. Ocean, you make an excellent point. And this question's come up in the past, and the best way
Yeah.
I answered it, had we been coming from the other direction, as going really large in that direction, I wouldn't worry about it so much. But the problem is where the front that we're chasing is the front door. So
Hmm.
think about it. Where we're going to come in to approach the
Hmm.
deposit will be from lower Treaty Creek somewheres.
Hmm.
So what you're going to do is you're going to put a ramp through this thing. You're going to drop a ramp to go after basically the best grades of your sub-level block cave. Now, can you imagine running and this happens, and running a ramp, sterilizing some of your best grades?
Hmm.
This is where your geological model failed you because you did not have enough geological information. Mines have been shut down because of that. That's one mistake I vow not to make.
Hmm.
So, what I want to do is clear the front door, if you will. I want to sweep the front porch to make sure we do not go and
Hmm.
sterilize a big block of really high grade. Once you put that tunnel through there, it's there for the life of the mine. You're not breaking that thing out to the
No.
very end. So you've
Yeah. And you are
sterilized
not
your
moving
by
that.
far best grades. So this
Yes.
happened on several. I don't want to embarrass
Yeah.
people, but
Yeah.
it's happened on several mines
Yeah.
and in historical, but even recent times here.
Hmm.
So one of the compliments we do get, and we have an excellent geological team, Natalie Sanger. Uh, we have a great. She's our resource modeler. She makes sure that we actually know where we're going with our drill holes. And Spencer Kirchhoff up in the camp. He's our exploration manager with doing an excellent job. Having a lot of experience. He's been with me since day one. Those two people go back and forth and always tweak the model, what we need to do. And between the three of us, we triangulate what the plan is for the future. And now what we're seeing is, I think the fruits of that labor coming up on these last 9 drill holes. We'll see.
Hmm.
Of the 7, there's 7 that are out there that I've seen snippets of optically. Geologically, what we see, we think we're in pay dirt. We think they're going to be exciting. So 7 really nice looking drill holes are waiting to be released. I haven't quite gotten them back in the lab. And then 2 more from Perfect Storm on the very far eastern limit,
Hmm.
where you're almost getting back to towards Konkin Gold, if you will. But
Hmm.
those are very critical holes that'll set us up for what we do next year. Now, I have mentioned there's actually 4 pads in total, 2 super pads up on a bank we call a Thunderdome, great name. But we have also a couple to clean up on the south on pad 5, one of the old pads, because that's still wide open. So what we want to do, and to answer that question, I'm not escaping it, is to clear the front door to make sure that when we do sweep the northern front, we're not going to sterilize a bunch of ore. So we need to know where, as much as anything, where high grade is not. And when I mean high grade, I'm not just talking about, 2 gram over 100 meters. That's a great number. If you get a 100-meter shot of 2 grams, that's lovely for any kind of sub-level block cave. But beyond that, I'm talking about these numbers that we've been sort of hinting about, these, 4.5 meter, 21 gram hits. I just looked at a model yesterday with Ryan Lick, he's our in-house kind of resource data manager, and puts out these great slides. What we saw was stark, because it was something that we hadn't seen before in a really solid orientation, because now we're getting a lot more density of drilling, a lot more predictability to the high grade, and it does add up. It does hang together very well. I was really surprised. So let's see what these last 7 drill holes do. Let's see if it supports that model I've been talking about, that there is high grade within it that was not included in the resource. So when I talk about hole 113W1 not being included in the resource in the lower portion, the upper portion was that 456 meters of 1.35 gold and 300 horizon was in the resource. And that's a spectacular hit too. But the point that I'm making is, the other aspects of high grade, anything over 8 grams was not included in our resource. It was just capped at 8 grams because we were not including high grade structures. But now we're seeing something that may have some good legs to it. So this is what the thing I've been talking about that may be a game changer. So when you say we've been drilling for, well, it's only been year number 4. We've completed the first discovery year, and then 4 years of basically chasing the dragon. And now we're coming towards the head of the dragon, the front end of it, to where we need to know we don't put a ramp down the middle of the throat of this thing. You need to put them beside, because if you're going to cut it up and take it out, the last thing in the world you want to do is sterilize a bunch of ore, ripping a ramp right down the middle of it.
Do you think with those remaining holes released, that might define better already to find that front door then, and to make sure that you are not killing that high grade stuff, which I saw in your press release, which looks to me like, how can I say that, maybe not like a new discovery already, but it looks something like there is really hard smoke now. You are nearing the fire.
Absolutely. I think we're seeing not just smoke, but sparks. We're seeing a lot of sparks here. And I think the best way to describe it is, we need to define the mining shapes. So to go forward, and what you're alluding to is the PEA. And I know that question's always been looming, and that is the goal here. And this is the part you do not screw up. You do not screw up on ink where tunnels go, because you can remove that. But the problem is, you've planned everything according to it. You've planned a lot of studies according to it. You've planned a lot of geotechnical drilling according to it. Money, absolutely out the door. So the goal is to actually get this most secure mining shape of the highest quality of ounces. And when I talk about it, that's why I threw that 1 gram cutoff sensitivity out there, just to show people, we lost exactly half the tons, went from 642 million tons to 320 million tons. We did chop it off in half. However, we didn't lose proportionally half the ounces. We still had almost 15.2 million ounces at 1.48. That's the takeaway, because if you put back on, not only the ounces that we have is the inferred, but what more do we discover out there? What more? We think the system is waning in a couple of directions, so we're not going to concentrate on those directions. Clearly, we're only going to concentrate on flushing out what we think is the strongest, the heart of the system. So think of it this way. We're going down the funnel of the source. This is what we're chasing now. We're chasing the funnel of the source, where it's coming down, necking down. If you've noticed, the widths are tightening up a little bit. They're no longer 800 meter, 1,000 meter things, which funneled out. Those were the splay. When you see a source to a metal source, think of it as a tighter a narrower fountain of metal coming out and spraying up into the host rock is exactly what we're seeing. So we found this in reverse, as typically you do. Rarely do a heart shot straight on. I mean, honestly, it's usually it's the fringe elements and working back to the center of the center of the storm, if you will. So this is where we at. We're hoping we're in the eye of the hurricane here. Literally, we come through the other side, smiling that we actually finally hit the other side. Say, here we go. Here's concrete, dark green rock with no values. We know this is where we can put some good infrastructure, good front door material. We drive through and we actually start saying this is a good distance to be from a block cave because you got stability issues. Can you imagine ripping a block cave and having a ramp collapse on it? I mean, a lot of things are dependent on this thing. People haven't thought this through. When they say, oh, yeah, you guys got so many ounces, you should be able to do a feasibility. No, not at all. You don't have anything until you have the final shape. You got nothing. You don't even have your strip ratio. So we're all excited about going after it and designing what would be the lowest footprint that would be surface disturbance, because that is a path of least resistance to your quickest permitting. So if we do a narrower, smaller, tighter starter pit, so I'm kind of taking a page out of Malartic's success, where they had 40,000 tons a day in a starter in a pit, and then about 20,000 tons a day was what they're planning for a sub-level block cave. So this is the idea: is you try and optimize. So 60,000 tons a day is what we're shooting for. But let's pick a grade now. Pick a grade now. If we just play the game, if you're looking at 1 gram, well, you're going to be looking at which is arguably there. It's all there. If you go, double that, or go significantly higher, say 1.5, 1.5, you're getting close to being a 1 million ounce producer now. So this is the idea. If you can choke down the amount of material flowing through that mill with your highest grades, your internal rate of return goes up. So I'm talking about numbers for the feasibility. So we're talking about numbers that will give us the best looking CapEx for the most optimization. That'll take time in the future. But first things first, don't screw this up. Do not, let's find out where the front door is. Let's find out where we can put the infrastructure. So all of this language is not talking about just frivolous exploration. This is very important stuff.
Absolutely. No, I see it the same way as you just told us here. And definitely. So let's assume for a second that those remaining holes will help you really to find that way with the front door. What would be then the work for next year? What would be the plan?
Well, here's the nightmare in the closet, which is not a good nightmare, let's just say. It's one thing to look at the overall global ounces and look at the mining shapes. But the one thing that has always bothered me about this was the thing that I've been alluding to more and more is the ounces are left off, the high grade. And I had a nice discussion with Mr. Eric Sprott, and he was even surprised to see that much high grade in the deposit. And we may be looking at a domain that we can use a cut and uncut version of a resource, but we'll have a look at that and see if it's possible. Because what it does, as much as I say that we're going to finish off the exploration hopefully this year by putting all of the drill holes into the head of the beast and say this is where it stops, this is the front door, we want to bring it, we want to bring the ramp in off the left shoulder a good distance so we can come in and not disturb that rock for propensity for structural integrity. But the point that I'm making with this is, what if there's a game changer, a high-grade system that's right there that we've actually plugged into and haven't recognized yet? This is what we're looking for in these last 7 holes. What if there's something in there that might make it very attractive to the economic arsenal of the project if we were to go after 1,000 ton a day starter to start the ramp to go through? Can we graze a piece of the high grade, purposely cut through a window of the lower grade, to where we have a window to go after and start drawing in 750,000 ton a day material over 10, 15, 5 meters, maybe 2 meters of stuff in the ounce department, in the stuff that in the 10 gram, 15 gram, 20 gram, with appreciable copper, with copper grades. So let's have a look if that's even a reality, because we've been talking about it looks like there's values all over the place, but let's see what these last 7 holes do. If that can spring free a new model that says, yes, We do have the large, basically the pit target's not going to change to the degree where it apexes. We know all that. It's where it ends is the problem, is where it goes down to where it's going to be possibly a sub-level block cave, because maybe the strip ratio will be too high on that aspect. Maybe we do a smaller starter pit, and then we take a real hard look at how we come over and pull down the grades and attack just the best grades now, to where everything tumbles in as lower grades later, because you want to pay back your capex as soon as possible. So the logic is go for and it may be you have to go deep for it, and it may be logical and save a lot more money than coming in on sub levels on this thing. I don't know what that answer is. We need the people of that special discipline that know these things. These guys are specialists. That's what they do. So this is where the company is pivoting towards. But my job is not complete. Our team's job is not complete. Our team will sit down, look at it, and say, geez, there's this thing right here. Maybe we only need a 50-meter spacing on this thing, because the aspect about the gold that we do see, it's very fine grained, but it's much more homogeneous. It's shockingly present in every hole. So it's one of those weird things where it's not a nugget effect so much as a predictable. And we hit one section I know we saw. It looked a lot like hole 134, which was that one that had 25 meters of almost 10 grams, but in the end had a core of it, 4.5 meters of almost 21 gram gold. And that had 17 occurrences of extremely fine gold. And I'm fairly sharp with a hand lens, with a 40 power hand lens. And I'm sitting there looking at this stuff, starting to circle it with a white grease pencil, because coming back after like year after year, when I came back on hole 134 after the year, it was harder to detect where the gold was, because it was just a matter of either I'm getting older, or the fact is you really have to tune in your eye. You need a really sharp eye to figure that out. So we had our best guys go over it. 17 occurrences were found of visible gold that we had to circle. And when we have our VIP tours come up, we take them to the table and we give them core that we don't circle. Say, can you find anything? And says, here, I'll circle it for you. When I show it to them, they go, wow, that's really fine. You got a sharp eye, because the finer gold tends to be more homogeneous. The coarser, chunky stuff tends to have that nugget effect. So let's see what bleeds out of this thing at the end of the day. Let's just be patient, wait for the final last 7 holes to be released here, and let's see what we say. But let's not take our eye off the prize. Let's make sure we stitch off the front, do the last big program. If anything, we may be doing an auxiliary add-on to where do we take a high-grade approach and start a pilot plant. Start running 1,000 ton a day through it, or 750 to help pay for all the development costs. So there you go. So what a great economic arsenal we've got in front of us, because it's almost like there's so many ranges of grades. The answer is, what do you want it to be? So in the end, we will have to make a decision and market this thing one way or the other. I understand that. However, with all the stuff just emerging, it's pretty hard to say until we actually define the size and scope. And maybe it's only 500,000 ounces. Maybe it's 1 million ounces, which is really significant. In a high-grade deposit, you've got a 1,000,000 ounces of high-grade.
That helps a lot, I would say.
Absolutely. You do the math on 1 million ounces and see as a starter that you're going to go through. It's the same permit, same everything. So off to go, same tailings. So you're not you're just taking the sweetener out of the coffee first. Is what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Super. Last question shortly, because that's the question of the month, of course. What's about money? Are you financed so far to do that all? Maybe next year you need to do something, just to give us an idea.
Yeah, we're okay now, but it's getting low. I mean, we've done a really good job of watching dollars and cents of where we actually put the drill holes. So there'll definitely be a consensus. We've had several board meetings. We've been looking at a few. We have been talking to some large senior producers that have taken interest. That is true. But typically, I always see that as a year or 2 year study, and they watch you. And it's never an absolute jump in now. If it is, you've probably sold too cheap, in my opinion. So it's something that, we have so much low hanging fruit, especially on the horizon with Perfect Storm, that it would be nice to have a strategic alliance, but on a smaller scale, like maybe a 9.9%, something like that. Okay. So there's a lot of stuff in front of us that we're looking at. All options are on the table right now. Yep. We just want to be careful not to we know that the heavy lifting is coming with the money. So it's important that at these levels, we don't over dilute the company.
No, for sure.
And dilution is inevitable no matter what you do, no matter if it's a stream sale, if you do a stream forward we just bought back a bloody NSR. So, I mean, I'm not exactly, in a hurry to run back into that scenario again, especially now with the conditions. I mean, you sell an NSR for, you'll get maybe a $10 million for a percent, then they'll give you a buyback for half of that for $10 million. So that's a pretty heavy dilution cost at that point. So I'm not really content to run into anything that quick. Yeah. So I think what we're going to look at is we've met a couple of groups in London that were very positive, that liked it. So we look for funds that are stick, stay, make it pay type people that have a good understanding of what it takes to build out a beast, especially the size in this geopolitical arena. Think about it. You're on the cusp of being the largest gold discovery in 3 decades, in 30 years. But here's the thing that we haven't talked about. Let's just talk about this for a moment. The metals, the critical metals. We've been talking about gold.
Yeah, but
let's talk about the critical metals. Now, that CS 600, people may look at our global resource and say, oh yeah, these guys don't have anything. It's 0.155 copper percent, nothing. It's not that. That's smeared over 2 end members that are gold dominant with no copper. If you look at the CS600 numbers only, it's 0.32 with the outlier. That's drill indicated with a 0.37, I believe. That's the inferred. What's that telling you? That's telling you haven't gone to the center of mass. That's telling you the better grades are out there yet. It's still coming. Still coming. So very important. If we can bump that number up over 0.3, if we can imagine getting close to 0.4 on copper only, and it's at 1.98 billion pounds in the drill indicated with another almost billion pounds out there is inferred. That's the important number. That 800 million pounds of inferred out there, that's sitting there at 0.36, 0.37. If that comes in any higher with a lot more that fills in, I can see us eclipsing 3 billion pounds, getting a lot closer numerically to 4 billion pounds than 3 billion pounds at the end of this day. So that invokes me to think, is there a reason to do an updated resource? Possibly, but would it be money wisely spent, especially when there's no money out there? Probably not, because people will just look at it and say, wow, that's great, and walk away. It's a better served saving to go after, to stitch off the front door, in my opinion. Get the mining shapes, get what you need to get to a feasibility.
Exactly.
If it's not getting into a feasibility, don't do it. If it's just trying to promote or save or show somebody, highlight somebody, I kind of question whether the validity is there of doing that. So there we go. And there's the other one. That's a critical metal, the copper. Let's talk about the other elephant in the room. My job for 19 years was chasing the globe looking for silver deposits. My minimum when we started was 20 million ounce minimums were minimums for any deposit. We couldn't look at anything else. Rapidly, we acquired so many deposits that we were at 50 million ounces silver. At the end of my tenure with Silver Standard, our goal was do not look at anything less than 200 million for world-class size. We are currently at 160 million ounces of silver. We think we will eclipse that 200 million ounce number as well by the time we're finished stitching off the front door here. So let's see what we come up with. Can you imagine that arsenal of metals for everybody? There's something out there for everybody. And the high grade guys, buckle up. Wait for the next 7 holes. So Eric, it's coming. I'm telling you.
You would love to hear that.
I'm right. I'm hoping the drill holes are what we think we're seeing. But let's see what happens out of this thing. Let's see what we get for best looking approach, mining shapes, geotechnical drilling, geotechnical aspects been taken care of. All the permitting for water has been taken care of. It's just a matter of striding forward, being patient with it, looking at it, saying, yes, this is where we place the final holes. The final assault, we'll call it. And then if we do auxiliary drilling on a high-grade thing, that may be an auxiliary thing on a smaller scale, but we will be moving the goalpost forward on the big deposit just because we know where not to sterilize it.
Perfect. Ken, thank you very much. That was, as always, a perfect insight. I would just say very simple, please find that front door.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll be ringing doorbells.
Yeah, please do so. Thank you very
Okay,
much, Ken. All the best for
great to
that.
see you.
Yeah,
Cheers.
ladies and gentlemen, that was Ken Konkin, the CEO of Tudor Gold, and you heard it in the last half hour. This was really a lot of geology, a lot of technical stuff, but I think it's great to listen to Ken. Really unbelievable with his experience and what he has already achieved so far. I mean, the Tudor Gold, this is a monster deposit. This is really amazing, and a lot of people only talk about the gold, but as Ken alluded to, I think the copper and the silver content is even the same importance as the gold, to be honest, because we see a lot coming up here also in the near term future, higher copper prices, much higher silver prices. And when he finds the front door, then this thing is really flying. So really check it out. And honestly, a stock price below $1 is a real bargain. Those are opportunities you have very, very seldom when you are an investor in mining. So really check it out seriously and make sure that you get some. I have already some. So thanks for watching us, and bye bye from Switzerland.